research review. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so I was waiting for the write-up for this one. So this is by Aikido. Authentication Bypass and the default configuration, phpBB, written by J0R1AN. Why did I think it was RC? In my head it was RC. Okay. Well, I'm just realizing this now. I thought it was an RCE bug and it was making me think of the vBulletin bug a while ago. But alright, we'll get into this. We'll figure out what great stuff J0R1AN cooked up here. 'Cause I've been wanting to know about this. Written by J0R1AN. I can't Walt here. I don't know. You can't put a J there in a word and expect me to be able to figure it out. June 10th, we announced a critical vulnerability in phpBB that lets attackers bypass authentication, now known as CVE 2026-48611. This post is a follow-up containing technical details that explain exploit scenarios and detection methods. To get you up to speed, phpBB is an old form software that's still being used today by various technical communities. phpBB's site showcase alone has over 6 million members. While there have been some notorious attacks in the past, like the Santi worm in 2004, nowadays they haven't had many problems with vulnerabilities. This disclosure breaks that trend. Yeah, I don't know, I was more of a bulletin guy. At least, like, that's realistically what would end up backing the forums I'd be on. While researching to improve our AI pentest project, Aikido attacks agent notified us of a critical authentication bypass in phpBB. We were slightly skeptical at first. Surely this was some configuration mistake or edge case we messed up in the setup, but it couldn't have been further from the truth. Wow. The found vulnerability works in default configuration, requiring only a single unauthenticated request to fully log into any arbitrary account. Logging into an administrator's account could grant you control over the whole forum. Oh man. After noticing this, we immediately reported the vulnerability on HackerOne and received confirmation it was triaged in under 9 minutes. Wow. 4 days later, a patch came out in version 3.3.17 addressing this vulnerability. If you manage a phpBB forum, update to this version as soon as possible if you haven't already. We'll now dive deeper into what parts of the code were vulnerable and how they were able to be exploited. Spoiler, it's not the crazy complicated exploit you might expect it to be. If it's just like the dumbest PHP like bullshit ever, like that'll be funny, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for, where it's just like, oh, they used string compare 3 safe instead of string compare 19 secure, and that one just like copies the string to the instruction pointer and just starts executing it as like that's the kind of thing PHP functions do, man, where it's like, they're just the biggest gotchas ever. So I don't like PHP, I don't believe in PHP. Like 10 years ago, if you'd asked me if anything would still be running PHP in 10 years, I would have said nope, not worth learning. And unfortunately, man, is it still worth knowing. Alright, but yeah, enough personal problems. Authentication bypass. This is all related to how exactly the login procedure works in phpBB. Not the main login flow, but specifically the login link feature. When connecting to external services like Google or GitHub OAuth, this feature is for linking the account to an existing account on phpBB instance or registering a new one. If you choose to connect it to an existing account, it asks you to log into your account with the mode equals login link query parameter. Submitting this will then connect the OAuth account after you log in. The callback is handled by UCP login link handler.php and first looks for login link data as a query parameter, which must not be empty. These are extracted here, so it sounds like this might be a logic bug and not just like... Maybe it'll be a logic bug caused by PHP being dumb, though. So some class that does some stuff, and wow. Luckily, this is easy to bypass by adding some dummy data like login _ link _ Aikido equals 1. It makes the data non-empty, and we can continue the flow. Further down in the code, we start to notice something peculiar. We have control over the auth provider query parameter. The value is normally set to OAuth, but we can fully control it. It's supposed to tell the phpBB server which provider should be used for verifying the authentication. For example, if you have both a local database and OAuth authentication configured. But what happens when we provide other values? Okay. Nice. phpBB defines all of these as classes under phpBB auth provider. There is one named apache.php that is very simple, a little too simple. So I guess it's the Apache provider. It verifies the no. It verifies the sent username matches PHP auth user, decoded basic authentication username, looks up the user, and just returns login success. But one thing is missing, a password check. Congratulations, you just found a critical authentication bypass on phpBB. By choosing an unexpected provider like Apache, we can skip the password and log into any user. Alright, so it's not PHP's fault. That's cool. Like, I was really hoping it would be like one of those phony PHP gotchas that led to some crazy logic bug, but instead it's yeah. Now to clear up any confusion, the maintainers did not forget to add a password check here. The intended functionality of the Apache provider assumes that authentication is handled by the Apache proxy with .http password, and every request must go through it first. phpBB just trusts the username that comes in the basic authentication header in that case. What we did here was trigger the Apache provider without Apache having to be configured through a feature designed only for OAuth. In this case, the client directly becomes the trusted proxy, and we can send any username they wish. Okay. So we can make a request that triggers the login link flow with valid data and a username of our choosing, but set the handler to Apache to skip the password check. Usernames aren't hard to find on phpBB instances, making it easy to log in as an administrator or a moderator. Definitely. All of this works in the default configuration of phpBB, making it more dangerous. See, this is why like we got some AI going to make things more secure, because it's going to find things like this that are just like, wow, you'd have to like sit down and know what was going on and care about it. Proof of concept. By reproducing this vulnerability is not hard. On any local phpBB instance, the following HTTP request shows a bypass to log in to the admin user encoded as base64 and authorization header like admin:x to, yep. So it's supposed to that with login link and provider Apache and some bonus things so that it's happy. And then it just logs you in as admin. Nice. A successful response sets the cookies and redirects to the home page. The attacker is then fully logged into the target account. To generate the above request, the following JavaScript code can be run in DevTools console of any instance. Yeah, there you go, yep. Reloading the web page afterwards shows the attacker is logged into the target account. That rules. Man, just the, yeah, oops, the let me in endpoint, the like, dude, trust me, man, endpoint. This is a good example of one of those AI bugs that you're like, good use of AI where it's like able to take all the context and be like, no, you can't do that. This is a problem. Escalation to administration control panel. We're logged into the administrator's account and can post anything posing as them, but if we actually try to manage the form through administration control panel, we hit a second password check. Oh no. The panel verifies again if we have the user's password while we're already logged in. While the initial instinct may be to just use our exploit again to bypass this login check as well, it has a completely separate implementation that isn't vulnerable to the same issue. We need a password to access this panel. For this reason, both the maintainer of phpBB and Aikido initially thought the impact of this issue was limited to the impersonation of arbitrary users. Right after sharing this blog post over on X, user Laboman mentioned that there is an escalation possible from user control panel UCP, essentially personal settings, to administration control panel as administrator without the need for a password. ACP access can be trivially obtained because almost always on real forums you can just log in as an admin in the main admin group with the founding role, create a new user account that you own, make it an admin. Yes, adding someone to a group does not need ACP, and then just log in as your account and get into ACP since you know the password. Right? That's a nice way to do that, yeah. And this was concerning. We quickly reproduced the idea locally and confirmed it was actually the case. The founder user is the first user registered in the phpBB instance and has the administrator's role by default. Specifically, this combination of permissions is exploitable because the founder can add other users to the administrator group. Not only that, they can do so from the user control panel. Okay, that's cool. The attacker can register an account for themselves and then grant that account administrator privileges through the Add Users panel. Afterwards, they can see the administrator control panel link in their own account because it's their own account They know the password and can fully log in. Okay, yep. From here, the full instance is compromised. Any settings can be edited, but to go even further, we can achieve impact on the underlying system too. Okay, so we are getting RC. Let's go. I'm going to pause. The following is only possible in the 4.x beta branch, not the most common 3x branch. However, we want to display the full impact of this vulnerability. In version 4.0a2, a so-called extensions catalog was added, replacing the manual method of installing PHP extensions through the file system. Nice. Extensions no longer have to be manually copied to the ext folder. Instead, you can configure repository URLs and fetch them straight from the web UI. While a nice administrator experience, this feature can bring a risk with it. It means that any compromised administrator on the web can suddenly install arbitrary extensions. Yeah, I wonder how this is going to work for like anybody offering like self-host or like phpBB as a service and not trying to expose whatever, I don't know. Not only from trusted sources, but by configuring the settings from any URL added to the repositories. Nice. After saving the settings, a request to attacker.tld/packages.json is made to fetch all available extensions. The attacker can return a list of extensions they claim to host, which are shown in the catalog. From here, as the administrator, the attacker can install their malicious extensions to have arbitrary PHP files written to the ext folder for them. Nice. We created a malicious server to host an extension with a web shell, and when configured, shows the attacker's extension listed. Yep. After installing and enabling it, the attacker can navigate to their web shell and achieve unauthenticated remote code execution on default configuration of the latest version. Cool. Indicators of compromise. Check request logs for post requests that have auth provider equals Apache. I wonder if any of the other auth providers were sketchy. And mode equals log and link query parameters together. This is the most common exploit. See the example request above. However, note that because phpBB reads both parameters from the post body too, those requests take priority over get parameters. A filter bypass request can then look like a regular mode equals login when actually performing mode equals login link in the body. Funny WAF bypass. Is still a required login link is still a required query parameter, so it can be used as an indicator of a suspicious request. Then analyzed manually further, it can look like this. Yeah. This is the kind of thing Aikido attack would turn up on a normal run. It hunts auth bypasses, IDORs, and logic flaws the way a real attacker would, then validates each one so you only see what's actually exploitable. Point it at your own apps and secure them fast. Okay, so June 2nd was when this was popped. Okay. Timeline. So research review points. I like this because it's a good victory. And it's kind of like a victory that makes sense. But how does this generally apply to bug bounty? That's complicated, I guess. Just phpBB, I don't even know what was done from the bug bounty side of things here. Let's look at the program, I guess. Is it a VDP? I don't even know. Is HackerOne up today? Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's not eligible for bounties. The general approach here is good. I like the local lab versus dedicated research agents like that especially whitebox, that goes really well, and especially when you have good kind of application specific patterns for it to be looking for. Why did this work? If you throw enough at a wall, it'll stick. I'm sure that the agent has run against all kinds of things, and you get lucky eventually with things like this. Further research, I'm kind of curious about variant analysis and are there other cases where there's similar high-level patterns here where you're able to hit things you shouldn't hit through certain endpoints, being able to support that Apache type or some of the other implementations, and then are any of the other implementations, are any of these, I guess there's not really, is being able to reach them this way still a thing? like, how is this fixed? I guess maybe you're not supposed to be able to reach them this way, and is there anything interesting you can do? I don't know. I guess look at the patch. That's future research, is review the patch. Rating, I rate this founder out of 10 because you're authenticated as the founder user. And where else can this be applied? All kinds of places. That's an exercise for the reader. I've got some interesting ideas. This is definitely an interesting class of bug to look for, just doing that mapping of how authentication works and understanding like nuances to how the side doors function, and oops, they accidentally allow you to reach strange code paths that weren't intended to be exposed that way. And then I do like the escalation pieces, like you can just add another user through the UCP, or you can control user groups through the UCP panel that doesn't need the admin password, and then the RCE in the beta version is fun too. I always like WordPress admin to plug in, install RCE. I don't want to think about PHP. So yeah, pretty cool research, really good write-up, really easy to understand. I like when J0R1AN writes things because they make sense. We'll call it reviewed.